There's a ship. Over time, its planks rot and get replaced. One plank, then another, then the mast, then the hull. Eventually, every single part has been replaced. Not one original piece remains. The question, is it still the same ship? And if you take all the old parts and rebuild them into a ship, which one is the real Ship of Theseus? The one that's been continuously sailing, or the one made from the original parts? This isn't just a philosophical thought experiment. It's a question about identity, continuity, and what makes something the same over time. And the unsettling answer is, there might not be an answer. Both ships have equal claim to being the original, or neither does, because identity isn't a property of objects. It's a story we tell to pretend things stay the same when they don't. And this applies to you. Your cells die and regenerate. Every 7 years, almost none of the physical matter that made up your body still exists. You've been completely replaced. Part by part, are you still the same person? If someone took all your old cells and reassembled them, which one would be you? The paradox isn't about ships. It's about the illusion of continuity, the belief that something persists when really it's just constantly becoming something else while you pretend it's still the same. The continuity illusion where persistence is a cognitive trick, not a fact. The original versus the copy problem where both claims to identity are equally meaningless, and the self-application where you realize you're the same paradox as the ship, replaced entirely, yet insisting you're still you. Subscribe to that stoic stick because we don't resolve paradoxes. We show you why they dissolve your certainty. Let's talk about the Ship of Theseus and why identity might be a lie. 1. The continuity illusion. You assume things stay the same, that the ship sailing today is the same ship that launched years ago, that you are the same person you were a decade ago. But saying is doing a lot of work in that sentence, because materially, nothing is the same. Every plank has been replaced. Every cell has died and regenerated. What persists isn't the thing itself. It's the pattern, the shape, the story. And you've convinced yourself that patterns are enough to claim identity. But are they? Here's the illusion. Your brain interprets continuity as sameness. If something changes gradually, one plank at a time, one cell at a time, you don't perceive it as a different object. You perceive it as the same object undergoing change. But that's a cognitive trick. Your brain is smoothing over discontinuity to create the appearance of persistence, because discontinuity is destabilizing. If you accepted that the ship is a different ship every time a plank is replaced, you'd have to accept that nothing stays the same, that identity is fleeting, that the world is in constant flux and nothing you label as the same actually is. So your brain creates continuity where there isn't any. It tells you the ship is the same ship because it occupies the same role, serves the same function, maintains the same shape. But function isn't identity. Shape isn't identity. Those are attributes. And attributes can transfer to a completely different object. If you build a new ship with the exact same design, same function, same shape, but entirely new parts, is it the same ship? No, it's a replica. But the ship that's been gradually replaced is also a replica. Just a replica that replaced itself one piece at a time. So what makes one the same and the other a copy? The continuity illusion is the belief that gradual change preserves identity. That if you replace something slowly enough, it remains itself. But that's arbitrary. There's no metaphysical threshold where replacement becomes transformation. You're just more comfortable with slow change than sudden replacement. So you call one the same and the other different, based on how it feels, not on what's actually true. Think about you. 10 years ago, you had different beliefs, different goals, different relationships, different memories. Your body was different. Your brain was different. Materially and psychologically, almost nothing is the same. But you claim you're the same person. Why? Because you remember being that person? Memory is continuity. But memory is also fallible, edited, reconstructed. You don't remember the person you were. You remember the story you've told yourself about who you were, and that story smooths over the discontinuities. It makes you feel like one continuous self when really you're a sequence of different selves pretending to be one. The continuity illusion protects you from the terror of impermanence. It lets you believe things persist when they don't, that you persist when you don't. But persistence is a story, and once you see that, the story stops working. 2. The original VS, the copy problem. Here's where the paradox gets worse. If you take all the replaced parts from the Ship of Theseus and rebuild them into a ship, which one is the real ship? The one that's been continuously sailing but has no original parts? Or the one made entirely from original parts, but was disassembled and rebuilt? Both have a claim, and both claims are equally valid, which means identity isn't a property the ship has. It's a label you're assigning, and the label is arbitrary. The continuously sailing ship claims identity through continuity. I've been here the whole time. I've never stopped being the Ship of Theseus. Yes, my parts changed, but I persisted. That's the argument from continuity. Identity is maintained through unbroken existence, not through material composition. The ship is the same because it's always been the ship, even as it transformed. The rebuilt ship claims identity through original composition. I'm made from the actual original parts. Every plank, every nail, these are the pieces that made the Ship of Theseus. The other ship is a replica. I'm the real one. That's the argument from material origin. Identity is tied to the original substance, not to continuity. The ship is the same because it's made from the same matter, even if it was disassembled. Both arguments make sense, and both contradict each other. So which one is right? Neither. Because the same doesn't exist as an objective fact. It's a concept you impose on objects to create the illusion of stability. The ship isn't the same. It never was. Sameness is just a story you tell to avoid confronting constant change. And when you have two ships both claiming to be the original, the story breaks down. Because stories can't handle contradictions, and reality is full of them. Here's the disturbing part. You can't resolve this by choosing one definition of identity over the other, because definitions are arbitrary. If you define identity as continuity, the sailing ship wins. If you define it as original composition, the rebuilt ship wins. But winning just means you picked a definition that supports your preference. It doesn't mean you found the truth, because there is no truth. There's just a definition you chose, and the definition you rejected. And both are equally made up. This applies to everything. If you replace every part of your car, is it the same car? If you restore a classic car with all new parts, is it authentic or a replica? If you get an organ transplant, heart, liver, kidneys, are you still you? If you upload your consciousness to a machine, is the machine you or a copy? The questions multiply, and none of them have answers. Because identity doesn't exist outside the definitions you create, and definitions are arbitrary. The original versus the copy problem reveals that original is meaningless. Both ships are equally the Ship of Theseus, or neither is. And once you accept that, you have to accept that identity is a fiction, a useful fiction maybe, but a fiction. 3. The self-application. You are the Ship of Theseus. Your cells die. New ones grow. Your body replaces itself completely roughly every 7 to 10 years. Not one atom that made up your body a decade ago is still part of you now. You've been entirely replaced. Part by part, cell by cell. So are you still the same person? Or are you a different person occupying the same role, carrying the same memories, pretending to be continuous? Here's where it gets worse. If identity is continuity, then you're the same person because you've never stopped existing. You've been here the whole time, even as your material composition changed. But if identity is original composition, then you're not the same person. The person you were 10 years ago no longer exists. That person's cells are gone. Their body is gone. What remains is a reconstruction, a copy, a ship built from new parts while the old parts were discarded. And just like the ship, you can't resolve this by picking a definition. If you define yourself as the continuous experience, the unbroken stream of consciousness that's been present your whole life, then you're the same person despite the material replacement. But if you define yourself as the physical matter that makes you up, then you're a different person. The you from 10 years ago is dead, and what's left is a replica that inherited the memories, but not the substance. Most people don't think about this because it's destabilizing. You need to believe you're the same person. It's foundational to identity, responsibility, continuity. If you're not the same person who made promises yesterday, why should you keep them today? If you're not the same person who committed a crime, why should you be punished? Society requires the illusion of continuous identity, so you accept it. You tell yourself you're the same person, but materially, psychologically, you're not. Your memories aren't the same. They've been edited, reconstructed, rewritten every time you recall them. Your beliefs aren't the same. Your values have shifted. Your personality has changed. Your relationships are different. Your body is different. Every measurable aspect of you has transformed. And yet you insist, I'm still me. But what is me? The pattern, the continuity, the story you're telling to tie all these different versions together? Think about this. If you could take all your old selves, the ones that made you up 10 years ago, and somehow reassemble them into a body, which one would be you? The body you're in now, continuous but entirely replaced? Or the reassembled body, made from original parts, but discontinuous? Both have a claim, and both are equally you, or neither is, because you isn't a thing. It's a process, a pattern, a story. And stories don't have material existence. They're just interpretations imposed on flux. Here's the existential collapse. If you're not the same person, then personal identity is an illusion. You're not a self that persists. You're a sequence of selves, each one slightly different, connected only by memory and narrative. And memory is unreliable. Narrative is constructed. So what's left? Just the present moment. Just this version of you right now, claiming continuity with past versions that no longer exist and future versions that don't exist yet. You're not the Ship of Theseus, you're worse. Because at least the ship has a clear function and shape. You don't even have that. You're a process pretending to be a thing. A pattern insisting it's continuous. A story claiming to be truth. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. So that's the Ship of Theseus paradox. The continuity illusion, where persistence is a cognitive trick that smooths over constant change. The original versus the copy problem, where both ships have equal claim to identity, and both are equally meaningless. And the self-application, where you realize you've been completely replaced, yet you insist you're still you, despite having no material or psychological continuity with who you were. Identity doesn't exist, not as an objective property. It's a label, a story, a cognitive trick your brain uses to create the illusion of stability in a world of constant flux. The ship isn't the same ship. You're not the same person. Nothing stays the same. Everything is always becoming something else. And the belief that things persist, that you persist, is just a comforting lie you tell yourself to avoid confronting impermanence. Maybe that's fine. Maybe the illusion is necessary. Maybe you can't function without believing in continuous identity. But you can't unknow the paradox. You can't unsee that sameness is arbitrary, that persistence is a story, that you're not a thing, you're a process. And processes don't have identity. They just happen. The Ship of Theseus paradox doesn't have a solution. It has a revelation. Identity is fiction. And once you apply that revelation to yourself, everything destabilizes. You're not who you were. You won't be who you are. And the you reading this right now is just one frame in a sequence of different selves pretending to be continuous. If this unsettled you, drop a comment and tell me which version of you is reading this. And subscribe to that stoic stick, because we don't give you answers. Are you the same person? Or are you just the latest version of a pattern that keeps insisting it's continuous? Maybe identity is real. Or maybe you're just a ship that's been rebuilt so many times you forgot you're not the original. And maybe forgetting is the only way you survive.